When you think of skyscrapers, places like Manhattan, Chicago, Hong Kong, or Dubai will probably come to mind. Probably one of the last places you would think of is Yemen. But inside of the Arabian country, in the middle of the desert known as the Empty Quarter, lies an ancient, densely populated city home to skyscrapers made of mud. Welcome to That Is Interesting. I'm your host, Carter. Today, a look inside the spectacular city of Shibam and other places around the world with fascinating and unique architecture. Most of Shibam was built in the 1500s in central Yemen along a seasonal river called Wadi Hadramaut. The city's residents used mud bricks from the wadi to construct a walled city of high-rises, some reaching 11 stories tall, creating some of the earliest skyscrapers on Earth and giving it the nickname the Manhattan of the desert. From inside, it would seem that you were in a major city. Due to the height of its buildings, as well as the fact that they stand so tightly together, the walled city disguises the fact that it is home to only 7,000 people, creating an urban environment in a small town. Tunnels cut through buildings, connecting street to street, and sky bridges joining building to building. The city's mud brick structures are repaired constantly by workers who dangle above the streets of Shibam on pulleys, adding more mud to protect the high rises from the elements. Shibam is not the only spectacular city in Yemen. Farther west, the city of Shahara sits on top of a mountain, with stone bridges straddling gorges to connect neighborhoods on different peaks, and the capital of Sana'a is famed for its ornately decorated red and white brick buildings. Shibam brings to mind another city as well. Kowloon Walled City was a neighborhood of Hong Kong. It began as a military fort. When Hong Kong changed hands from China to Britain, the fort, while technically a part of Britain, remained a Chinese outpost. It remained a small walled-in fort until the Chinese Civil War. People escaping the conflict fled into Hong Kong and occupied the walled city. In the 1950s, a fire broke out, and much of the small wooden homes were destroyed. After the fire was put out, more buildings were crammed into the open spaces, piling on top of one another, packed tightly into the walled city. At its peak, 50,000 people occupied just 7 acres of land, making it the most densely populated place on Earth. Due to this dense population, it was impossible to govern and became a haven for crime and disease. Roofed-in alleyways riddled through the city, and inhabitants could not see the light of day. In 1994, due to the walled city's extremely low quality of life, Britain and China decided to tear it down. The residents were evicted, and the city was demolished. Not before an action movie was filmed inside. Today, it is home to an open space known as Kowloon Walled City Park. In the United States, this small town is home to several decently large skyscrapers. Bartlesville is a town of just 36,000 people in rural Oklahoma, but a look at its skyline would suggest otherwise. Money poured into the town through the success of the Phillips Petroleum Company, which had its headquarters there. Phillips built several tall buildings in town to house the major oil company, giving Bartlesville a taller skyline than most towns its size. But the city's most prominent skyscraper is Price Tower. It was designed by famed architect Frank Lloyd Wright to be the headquarters of another local oil company, and was the only skyscraper he ever built. With several large skyscrapers, the small town of Bartlesville looks like a large city. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you learned something new. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover the countries, cities, people, and places of the world and beyond. These videos will leave you saying, "That is interesting."